All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third weekly sync. Is that right? Exciting. Cool. So we're going to today start off with demos, and then we're going to have our very first retro. And then we'll go over the issues, and then we'll go about our Saturday. Yeah. So who would like to start off the demo? Don't all jump at once.
We can. Cole, do you feel okay with that?
Sure.
You sure?
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, we can. I can start if you want me to.
I think my part is
You got that.
kind of leads into yours. Let me
Yeah.
try to get this set up here. I'll get the hang of Zoom one of these days.
I opened it in on my phone and it looks great.
I did too.
I was like, oh yay, that's awesome.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Our issue is issue number 3, which was to generate a token via a button that the user can push, save that token to local storage, redirect the user to the list view once, well, all at the same time. If the user already has a token, they should be redirected to the list automatically. And I'll talk about the local storage part. And what we did was we imported the get token function from the Collab Lab shopping list utils from NPM. We installed that as a dependency. And we used it here on onClick for the function to fire if somebody pushes the button. And we call get token. Can you see my pointer? Or no?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay, so we call get token here, and we stringify it to put it in a form that local storage will understand. And then we set that item to local storage right there. Then we set our token to the parsed version of that. So we kind of go backwards on it, pull it back down as a regular object that JavaScript can use. And then we navigate to the item list right there. And then similarly up here around line 14, when someone logs in, we check to see if they have it, parse it, and if it exists, then we automatically navigate them to the item list. You want to take it from here?
Yes, I will. And then I have the app open. All right. So as you see, we did the use effect for a while. We were messing with, oh shoot, sorry, I was going up yours, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't be.
Putting mine down so you
no,
can
you're so good. Don't be, you're good. All right. So it's our beautiful app so far. And as Cole was saying, he's so good. I know that he had worked with local storage previously, so he really helped jumpstart this issue for us. And the on-click was giving us what we needed, but it wasn't saving it. Like we were able to refresh and it would go right back. And I recently used use effect. And so again, from last week, I am still learning the magic of it all. But from what I understand, it's like independently taking each class change. And so like you said, he gets the item from the local storage and then it parses it through and sets it. I was playing with this because this is like a side issue where it was getting mad at us for not putting it as a dependency, but then it would break it. So that's something that maybe is just a later talk about. And we also decided so when you click it, it'll save it. And there are no items at the moment. and I won't get into it because I'll let the other team talk about their great part of it. But we decided to add a logout button just to make it much easier to debug and troubleshoot. Otherwise, we would have to, it was wild. So that's a really simple enough delete storage handler, delete handler, I guess we would call it. And that just removes that guy and then navigates to the home screen. But really the use effect is the magic that keeps it saved in our local computer, actually save it. So I think that's good. I think I feel good about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great, and I really like the adding of the logout functionality, because oftentimes we kind of have the applications in a pre-release state where it's not quite ready. We haven't built the whole thing. We need to have things that make our lives easier, and that is a lot better than having to open it up and then go and click and delete all the local storage. So that's something that I really liked seeing that.
Yeah, it was really handy. And then just to explain the rendering a little bit, because I didn't get there. And we decided to put it all in app.js because we broke up the components into different folders, and it was just complicated with the sharing of state. So I think it's you push the state up, right? Or whatever get it as high as it can go. And since this is a smaller application, I didn't see an issue with creating it in the app.js file. So we put it in there, and then we rendered it where it has a conditional where if the token does exist, then show the links which give you the add item or item list or the logout, else it shows the homepage as we see here. And in the same page, we have our routes again, because it's all just an app.js. So yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Very cool. Anyone have any questions or comments or anything?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just mentioned there's that phrase that I think you had been alluding to, that's actions updated down, and that's the general cycle in React. So usually the data streams down to the children, and then the children's perform actions that then update the data above. Cool. So it's this circular kind of thing that happens. And then for the navigate, that crazy behavior where probably the entire app crashes and stuff.
Yeah.
That one should, you can do some research and look into use callback.
Okay.
And it's because the dependency that second element, the arrays, the array, it's supposed to run use effect every single time that changes. And what happens is navigate, every time the application renders, navigate is a new function. And so use effect is oh, better run. And then it goes and it updates state. And then that in turn creates a new navigate function. And so it's better run. And then it updates state, and it goes into this cycle. And so there's one called use callback that you can use there in order to make it happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful job, y'all.
Thank you.
Really good job. Yay. Yeah, let's, we can jump over to the second group.
Sounds good. I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So our issue was we wanted to be able to add items to the shopping list using the user's token. So we were passing the name of the item, how likely they are, how soon are they likely to buy it, and the last purchase date. Let's see. All right, so let me just demonstrate really quickly. So once you log in, you can go down to the bottom and go to the add an item page. Let's see. You can add an item, choose how often you think you'll buy it. add it to the list. And then there's an alert that pops up if it is added successfully. If it's not successful, then you'll get like it'll pop up, but it'll have like the error in it. Let's see. And then once you go back to here, you can see the items were added. Let's see. So I'm going to talk about the item form. So we have the form component here. The props it's taking are the user token that the other pairs were created. And then we're worrying about the name and the purchase interval. So you can see in the form, we have the name form, the name field, and then we have the radio field. So the little dots where you select. So the hardest part was like making sure that we had like a default one checked, which ended up being tied to the value of the form. Let's see what else. And then we have the submit button at the bottom. So when you submit, come back up here. Okay, so we prevent the default, and then we do the add to database function, which is up here. And so when you come up here, you see that it adds the item name, purchase interval, the user token, and the last purchase date, which is known when you first add it, because I guess later on they'll be able to tell like the last time they bought it. If it's successful, then it'll say item submitted with the item name, and it also log the ID to the console, which was helpful because the database doesn't order it by like last added. It's like kind of scrambled up, so we kind of needed that to be able to find items. And then if it doesn't work in the catch here, it'll alert you saying that error added a document, and then you can go to the console to find the actual error. I think that's it.
Okay. So we did the add item list based off the user token instead of just like adding items. So here's the items that I added earlier to show you it works. This is the documentation we used to write the query. And this was actually very similar to the query we wrote last week. We just had to change a couple of things to get it for the user token. So we did have to write this query. And then we did kind of work on it yesterday together because we needed their code into our code to make everything work. So that's the other reason we didn't have questions, because we asked them all yesterday. So we did figure out, I think it was Cole and Jess's idea, that we can make this a template literal right here where the query equals, which was a really good idea. And then the last part that we were really like stuck on was, and I think Cole was the one who solved it, was that we needed to call the token inside of the use effect. And that solved a lot of our problems. And then we just mapped through the items to get the item list. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Really, really great job as well. I was wondering, so we had like some dependencies between the groups, right? Where you were saying that, oh, we needed this, the other group's code, and how did y'all deal with that?
Mobbed it. So we kind of figured out yesterday that since we needed their code, it would be easier to merge their branch into our branch, and then we could use it off of there. And that was like the first problem that we could solve. And then, yeah, we just kind of did it together after that.
Nice. Very cool. And how did you find the documentation for Firebase? How have you been finding that so far?
This was my first time using it. It seemed pretty simple. I mean, that was kind of like the easiest part. It was like just like that little like how to structure like the query or send it to the database. It was more of us figuring out like getting the data to it, more than anything. So, and as someone who's coming from some like SQL, it's like awesome because like I'm like, wait, I don't have to change like the data structure, any of that stuff. Like, like we can just start changing how we want to submit it to the database. That's pretty cool. So I like it.
Yeah. I'm like, what? I just throw it at it and it sticks. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. Nice. Well, really great work. Cool. If no other questions or comments, we can jump into our very first retro. That sound good? All right. And also just want to mention really great job on the demos. They're looking very smooth. Really cool. Okay, so I'm going to send the link, and we have this demo board, and I'm wondering, Senzi, did you make that or was that auto generated?
Yeah.
You made it. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you for making that. I went and looked. I was like, hey, there's already a board. Wonderful. So here's the link, and I saw that we had some people already adding things in here. What we're gonna do is just we'll take on each of the columns. We'll take like, I don't know, minute and a half, and we're gonna start on the appreciation. So this is just if you want to add in anything you're thankful for in the group or things that you appreciated, that would be great. I'm not being rude here. I'm just grabbing a timer. And so hang on. Yeah, we'll do a minute and a half on the appreciations, and then we'll go through and everyone will share. Sound good? So just adding cards and stuff. I feel like this was too short, so we're going to add just a little bit more time. Yeah? Okay, another minute. All right, how are we doing? Good? Yeah, cool. Okay, well, I'm now gonna share my screen and we can just go through and you may have asked or like added a few cards and you can just talk about each of your cards. Okay, so I'll start and just say like, first of all, Zenzi, thanks for doing what I'm sure was a really great office hours and also really helping out with the communication, being super well organized. And example of that is this awesome retro board. And also wanted to just generally thank the team for opening up pull requests, which is really, really scary. And you kind of have to be vulnerable and showing your code off and accepting criticism of it, which is always really, really, really scary. And I think that y'all are doing a really wonderful job with that. So now I will pass it on to Hans.
Yes, Cindy, thank you so much. I thank you both. I'm let's see. Oh, you can keep yours up there, right? Is that okay? Can you go off that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am really pumped to see other people working, especially on the same project. Working with Steph the first week and Cole, and even with Jess yesterday has been really helpful just in my own work, like the projects that I'm working on outside of this. I feel like now I have like 3 extra set of eyes, even if, you know what I mean? Like watching you guys work and troubleshoot through it has been really helpful in only 2 weeks, which is amazing. So I can't imagine how it's going to be at the end. Especially I'm excited to work with Jess this next week. I'm really pumped. And then I think that we can all say like I love this group so much. I think we're all so determined and serious about it, but also really it's a space to make mistakes and learn from. And I have just normal anxiety rather than like the excessive anxiety that I had even in school. So it's super appreciated. It helps a lot.
Awesome. And how about, do you want to popcorn it to the next person?
Yeah, I will go with Steph.
Okay, I put I'm the first one or last one, but I've a determined team that will consistently work through a problem. Like I said, we kind of mod programmed yesterday, and there was a lot of troubleshooting happening, and there's a lot of brainstorming happening, and there was like a lot of talking through problems happening. And I thought that it went like, there were stumbles, but I thought it went really well. Like we definitely came together as a group. Everybody was like very willing and open to listen to each other's ideas, and like no one got written off. And I just like to repeat what Hans said, like we work well together as a team. So that's what I put.
Cool. Awesome. Do you want to now popcorn it?
Okay, Jess.
Hey, so mine was pretty similar to theirs. I put that our team is very open-minded to each other's ideas. Pair coding is hard enough, but like coding with 4 people at the same time could be a disaster depending on who you're working with. And I think it went as well as it could. Just like everybody kind of working together, researching, trying out different things together, and I felt very safe like suggesting things or working together. So it was a great experience for working, and working in pairs too was also wonderful. But yeah, I'm amazed at how well we work together as a 4-person group.
Yeah.
So I'll send it to Cole.
Mine is completely along the same lines. I have a lot of anxiety issues, and I could not have asked for a better group of people. It feels like a safe place to put your ideas out there and just work. And it's great. It's really great to get this experience with such open people before actually going out and having to do it in a real job. It's priceless in the Yeah, that like that group troubleshooting on Friday was just awesome. It was just awesome to see everybody working together and open, and yeah, it was awesome. And that goes to the mentors too. I appreciate everything you're doing for us and the openness and safe place that you've provided and created. So
Cool. That's wonderful to hear. I know a while there was like this. I maybe mentioned this before, but there was this study by Google a long time ago about like really good performing teams and what makes some teams perform really, really well. And they found that it wasn't necessarily the skill level or like how much of an expert people were, but so much as like a feeling of psychological safety that people had, so they would feel comfortable taking risks and stuff. So it's really nice to hear that that's there with this team. Cool. And we have everyone. Okay. All right. So we're going to do we'll try 2 minutes on what went well. And then if you're done early, throw something in the chat. And then if you need more time, we'll discuss that in a second, which will probably be me. Okay. Looking at people's faces, I feel like we need more time. Yes, is that right? Okay. Well, there is something in the chat when you're done. Got everyone? Yeah. Okay. Cool. I will share my screen again. And why don't we start the other way? So I think we finished with Cole last time, so we'll start with Cole this time.
I put down the merge party and the peer programming. It's unbelievable how good it seems that we work together and get things done. It's like a lot of times when you work with people, there's obstacles. It just doesn't seem like that exists. It's just a free flow of information, and that goes for scheduling and flexibility and just overall attitude of the team. So, but really enjoy the peer programming and the group problem solving.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry. Stuff.
So before we start, I'm gonna go and group them so that I don't have to go in up back and forth. Wait, so oh, just the one, right?
Yeah, just the one.
Okay, cool.
I just kept adding to it.
Mhm.
I said the merge party Ishra, the peer programming with Jess, who is like full of ideas. And I also said ease of communication. Like I think we communicate really well as a team about problems, about PRs, about everything. Like I just think we openly communicate really well. So I would also reiterate that.
Nice.
Hans.
All right. So I did piggyback from Steph in communication because it was, I know for me, every day can be very long. And so we did it on Sunday, and Cole and I worked together on Monday. And then we were able to get it done. So it was like, even those like I don't know, like 2 days of not really thinking about other things. Just the meeting in the middle was really nice to be like, oh yes, I am working on this. I need to like keep my brain on this. And that was really nice. And like we communicate in so many ways on Slack, within our own chats, and then the TCL chat and everything. And I just think it's really nice. It just feels like a little community that helps me stay, I don't know, like grounded, especially like in a week and not having, anyway, it's really lovely. And then I also, what did I write? Again, we're learning. I think I know for me, I'm learning a lot about my own style, and everyone has their own and is coming to their own. So I think that ours merge really well together. And I think that goes back to being like very patient and empathetic with each other. So I think that went really well, just with the merge party and everything. So I feel great about that. And it was just so smooth. Again, the anxiety. So it's just really nice when it felt really right. So thank you. And I will pass it to Jess.
Yeah, so I thought I went really well to getting our two codes to work together, like figuring out like, hey, this is where we need the token, and then like is it in the state, or how do we grab it, or how do we pass it down through the components. And I mean, we had like snags, but like we worked through them pretty well, like using both of our knowledge of like our individual codes. So I thought that was pretty cool. What else? Oh, coordinating programming sessions. I thought it went really well, like figuring out like what everyone needed and finding that time to kind of come together and sticking with it, even though it took, it might take longer than you might think. And then I think, problem solving as a group. Yeah, I talked about that, like just figuring things out. We're great at communicating, and we're learning how to communicate about like how our code is written and how it works and what we need. And I think we did a pretty good job as a group figuring that out together.
Awesome. So
Oh, I'll pass it to Mike.
cool. Let's see. I have the demos are looking really good. And that is wonderful to see. And team super self-reliant, and also is doing like a really great job of self-organizing, and self-organization in agile teams is like the cornerstone of everything. So that's really, really great to see. And yeah, we nailed those issues, and that was absolutely wonderful. So really great job. Then I will pass it on to Zenzi.
I was just going to say, pretty much echoes what everyone else is saying. You guys did a fantastic job with coming together early in the week and creating and just completing your tickets, your issues, and then just requesting help as needed with the schedule, but really working independently despite the fact that you all had a lot going on this week to schedule the peer reviews, schedule mentor reviews, make sure that you merged all of the branches. It was just really phenomenal work, just working as a team and as a really cohesive unit. So hats off to you.
Awesome, cool. I think, is that everyone? We miss anyone? Yeah. Okay, so we did a wonderful job. But not everything is always perfect. So let's also try to reflect on what we could potentially improve to make, to help us do an even more wonderful job moving forward. So I will stop sharing and let's just take a few minutes to add this on, and we're gonna add a little thing so we know where the last comments are, and just throw something in the chat when you're done. This is always the hardest one for me. Okay, now done. Yay. Now it's in, right? Cool. So anyone want to start?
I'll start.
Cool. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. So I said just keeping track of like the organization of the project. We were talking about how like normally when you start a project, like especially if you're doing it by yourself, you'll just decide where things should go and like having components and views folder and things like that. And we kind of like started off working in pairs and not really talking about those things. And so now it's kind of coming back to where now we have to like spend time like putting things in places and importing it. And I was looking at the folders when I was like preparing for like our like for today, and I realized that like the view and the component were like swapped, like they should be in different folders, which kind of, I guess, you know, we were dealing with a lot yesterday, so it kind of got like lost in the shuffle, I guess. So just I don't know, maybe keeping track of that, you know, better as a group would help us out a little bit.
Cool.
And
Uh-huh.
I'll send it to Zenzi.
I don't think I have anything on there. I'll just bounce it over to Hans.
Thank you, Zenzi. We are good. We don't need to. No, I'm just kidding. What did I put? I think that it's good to take our time and be patient with ourselves. Yesterday was dope. I think we did so good yesterday. I know for me, I hyper focus on stuff and then I tend to lose vision. Like there'll be a time that I'm like, wait, what the heck am I even working on? What am I even doing? And then, so I think it's good to, you know, realize that like, okay, this isn't like, it's okay to, I know Steph and I know my pride is like, I got to figure this out. But then we were like, we decided like one of the last times we met, if we don't get this in 30 minutes, we will reach out. Right. And kind of like setting those boundaries with ourselves to be like, we're not alone. So why are we acting like we are? So that is something that I know personally I can improve on. And yeah, I think that we all deserve a break. Our brains my brain gets very tired. So
Yeah.
Let's see. Cole, do you want to talk about it?
Sure, thanks. I just put it's kind of hard to see things, I guess, for improvement without knowing, I guess, what's on the other side. Like we're all becoming used to working as a team. At least I am, working with GitHub as a team, and doing these things. So it's kind of hard to be. It's like, you know, we can improve, but it's kind of like code. Doing it more, we're going to improve. And it's also kind of hard to know what exactly we need to improve on that won't come from just maybe knowing a little more about it. Like I see some of the things they do in GitHub, I'm like, I didn't know you could do that. And then you learn and you get better. And so that's what I've got.
Yeah. Oh. And I think that I'm the last one here. So these may be semi-related, but one is, and this myself included, you know, with how we communicate in Slack, that if we can just try to be as public as possible, like rather than doing direct messages or anything like that, just make sure that you throw them in the public group and it's not too much noise or anything like that. And that would also help to make sure that we all know like, oh, they're working on this or blah, blah, blah. And I have no idea if there are like a lot of behind the scenes messages or anything like that, but just wanted to reiterate that because it's really, really tough to do sometimes. And then another one would be maybe we can look at like how we are communicating the PR review timelines. So I know that it was I didn't get a chance to jump in on the review until yesterday afternoon for me. And it would be nice if we could have those done, like maybe ready for review earlier, or if they're not going to be ready for review, we can have an idea of like when we think it'll be ready, maybe. Yeah, that's what I have. So let's, in our last few minutes, let's see if from these, if there are any action items that we can come out of it. So oftentimes you'll like at this point would group things together and see if there's any similarity between these. we have some things where, like here we have code organization, and kind of coming to a consensus around that. We have the super important thing of taking breaks, which I know is oftentimes you get into a cycle where you're like, okay, I'll take a break after I figure this out, but then you can't figure it out until you take a break because your mind's crazy, and so you end up like never taking a break. So it's really, I'm really happy to see that being recognized, and just remember to take the breaks. And then communication stuff here, and then you know, Cole, you're saying that we're going to be learning as we go with a lot of these tools, right? So what do we think about the keeping track of the organization, like coming to consensus about how we're organizing? Any action items that we can take there?
Maybe we can, the beginning of the week, talk in publicly in Slack about like our goals, I guess, as it like what we want it to be at the end of it. I was thinking about it the other day, what the how we'll get to come together and do the fun design part. And so maybe having like a like what I mean, our code went together so well. Whenever it like we merged, I was like, oh, like it was very cool. And we did it without really talking about it. So it was nice to see that. And so I'm like, imagine what it would look like if we were like, this is what we want it to look like when it does get married. And and just something loose like that. Maybe we can just like a quick Slack and be like, okay, what is it going to look like at the end of this? What are the functions going to be? And I know we have the examples in the issues, which is nice. So we don't have to get too crazy. Like usually the issues have like, this is what it will look like, or essentially.
Do like a quick check-in to see how we'll organize things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and whatever group meets first, maybe they can say like, hey, even if they haven't like finished things, they could say like, hey, we made like this component in this view just to give you a heads up. So like the other team knows kind of what changes might be coming down the line. And if there's any issues, maybe we can catch it before we've written like all the code and everything.
This kind of encompass more or less? Yeah. Okay. Cool. And want to say for the breaks, I'm going to say take breaks, and actually I'm going to go back and take breaks, put it in all caps, because definitely have to remind yourself about that. This one here, I was thinking maybe like as we're moving the things across the board, maybe we can communicate when we move it, and then we can know like, hey, okay, now it's in the peer review time, that kind of thing. Is that, yeah? Project cards in Slack, and so that also is the Be Loud in Slack one. Two birds with one stone. Yeah. And then yeah, any other like things that we think that we can do, tangible actions? We're kind of running over our retro time, so it's cool if not. All right. Well, wonderful job on the retro. The next time that we have one, we can check back in on these kinds of things. And also just anytime that you're seeing something you like, let everyone know. If you're seeing something we could maybe do to change how we're doing things, let everyone know. So really great job. So I think, Senzi, you're running through the issues?
Yes.
Cool. I'm sorry for not giving you a ton of time here.
That is okay. So let's see, share my screen. Okay. Does everyone see my board? issue board? No? Yes? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to go to issues here. And all right, so we have 2 issues this week. The first one is, as a user, I want to join an existing shopping list so that I can share a shopping list with another person. And then the other is, as a user, I want to be alerted when I'm entering an item that is the same as something that is already on my list so that I can avoid duplicate items. Now, what are our pairs? Is it Hans and Cole and Jess and?
I think it's Hans and I.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be me and Cole.
All right. Okay. So let's see. Does either pair see that either user story kind of calls out to them? Are they interested in one more than the other?
Would we be able to dig in, like open up the user story and just
Sure.
dig in to make sure we
Okay.
have all the acceptance criteria?
Absolutely. So this is the one about sharing a shopping list. So you can see when a user does not already have a token in local storage, on the onboarding and home screen, a simple form is displayed so that the user can enter a token. Should I read all of them or just kind of allow folks to?
I think we can maybe just talk through them and then we can read it on our own time. But maybe could we open up the wireframe?
The second one? Okay.
That link there.
Oh,
sorry.
Wait a second.
And the welcome screen.
Okay.
Yeah, there.
Here we go.
So here we can see there's a share a token. And so here you would input a token that already exists. And then you would join an existing group. So your token is associated with some items. And if my wife and I do shopping and communicate together all the time. So if I was like, hey, yeah, just add it to the shopping list, she would know our token, add that in, join the list, and then add an item, right? So you can have a shared one. Cool. Questions, comments, concerns?
Mhm.
All right. Yeah.
We'll take a
I
peek at the, or sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I assume on the create list, then it will be like, well, when you go to your list, it'll also have your token. So it's like you make it so that there's a way you can log in essentially. And then also when you create a new one, we will display that token that people can save however they need to save it. Right.
Ooh, actually, I don't know if we ever display the token. Do we? Yeah,
How
I don't
do
know
we
if we
know?
do. I never thought about that. About like,
How do we
yeah.
get the token?
Yeah, I think displaying a token is a good idea.
Just like keep it, like they can write it down somewhere for
Yeah.
like for now, right? We could do that.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't think any groups are always just like, yeah, you would open up local storage and grab the token.
Oh.
So yeah, display it.
Okay,
Totally.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing I wanted to mention in the thing, it says having a 4 on the label. And I know that there was I had commented on in one of the reviews, like, oh, you don't need a 4 here. And just wanted to clarify around that. It's I saw that the inputs are being put inside of the label. And so that means that there's no 4 needed if it's already inside. But if you were to, you can also have label next to input. And in that case, you'd need a 4 in order to associate a label with an input. Just wanted to clarify that because I didn't clarify it in the reviews.
Is either one of those more proper than the other?
No, I think that usually you see the input and the label next to each other more often. But I don't think that there is a correct answer, like one being better than the other. And that's part of what makes coding fun, is that you can do a lot of the same thing in different ways. Cool. I'm sorry, Zenzi, I kind of hijacked
Oh,
a little bit.
okay.
Apologies there.
So let's dig into this one a little bit. Shorter acceptance criteria for this one. So once again, as a user, I want to be alerted when I'm entering an item that is the same as something already on my list, so that I don't have duplicate items. So let's see. The acceptance criteria are showing an error message if the user tries to submit a new item that's the exact same name. An error message if the user tries to submit something that's an existing item where the capitalization has been normalized and punctuation has been removed, and the user's original input should be what gets saved in the database. So you're going to be doing some checking of the item and then making sure that the original gets saved. This is interesting because there's a lot of different ways to achieve all three parts of the acceptance criteria. So there's going to be some really fun discussions with this pair in terms of how you want to achieve all three and which methods and the benefits or the detriments of any of the methods, as far as I'm concerned. So there are no screenshots for this one. I don't think there probably doesn't need to be, but does anybody have any questions about the acceptance criteria? Okay, so now we have sorry, what was that?
Oh, just one thing to point out is it's when you submit, so it doesn't have to check when you're typing. And then, yeah, the error messages will be very much up to y'all. How you want to let them know. Yeah.
Okay. So does anyone have, now that you have a better idea of each of the user stories, does anyone have any preference, or either group have a preference?
I do not have any. Jess, I don't know if you're leaning either direction.
Did one group do UI kind of heavy last week and wants to take a try at something that's less UI heavy or UI forward, or?
I don't have any preference. We were split up last week anyway, so one person's going to be doing something different.
Okay, so what do we do? What do we do when there's no preferences then?
We need a hat, you know.
A sorting hat.
Like, yeah.
So,
All right, pick a number between 5 and 6. Yeah, you can just randomly assign.
all right. I don't even, let's see. I know Honduran code there, so that's the one that gets assigned to this. All right, so that's one. And who is your partner, Steph? I've already forgotten.
It's Cole, but I don't know his
I think
GitHub.
Cole, yeah.
He made it easy.
Oh, did I? Okay. All right, so that is that. And then go back. Okay, so what is yours, Steph? Start there.
I think we have Hans and Jess, right?
Mhm.
Oh, Hans and Jess. Okay, that's right. That was okay. Sorry. What did you? Is that you? Yes, it is.
Yep.
And Hans, are you Hans? Yes.
How do you guys typically assign them, like in your teams at work? Like, is it kind of like you guys know the strengths and weaknesses already, or is it a fun game that we play?
Well, I think that part of the reason why this was so weird just now, because we're like, who's volunteering? Because one of the rules in Agile and Scrum is generally that work never gets assigned; it gets volunteered for. So you should never have a team where they're saying, you do this now, right? Or if you do, that's usually a sign of some sort of issue. So usually it's people just volunteer, and oftentimes it'll actually be, around, hey, I don't know anything about this and I want to learn about it. So it's not just always playing to pre-existing strengths, but sometimes being able to learn helps to strengthen the group in general. Yeah.
Could that be, I mean, do you guys ever decide, like how like there's a list of the weeks that we know we're paired? So this week we could all be like, hey, this is what we want to work on as a team, like action point style. Like in our case specifically, like how we know who we'll be with next week, we could all decide before we meet. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean that could be a really good idea if y'all ahead of time take a look at the issues, see if you can understand them, and then kind of work out who wants to take what based on your understanding. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly. So we just kind of avoid the Rezenzi having to have to play God, right?
Yes, it did feel very odd. I hope
Sorry.
that the power doesn't go to my head. But you know what? In my company, it's a smaller consulting firm, and it's decided by billable hours who has hours available to be billed to this client, and that person gets assigned, and we're split evenly between JavaScript developers and Drupal developers. So it's very it's more product management and financial driven than engineer driven, deciding who gets to work on a project, and you make up your own user stories and develop your own Kanban boards.
That's cool. It's interesting to see that. Yeah, very different companies have very different approaches, and oftentimes based on very different business needs, right? Awesome.
But yeah, if you want to take a peek at the issues next week, and you can think about what or if anything moves you ahead of time, that sounds good to me. I'm always happy to experiment with what's going to work and what's going to make our meetings flow as smoothly as possible. Okay, so it looks like we are all set here. Mike, what is next?
I think that is it. I think, was there something? Thanks, by the way, to, I think, Steph, you pointed out the scheduling of Easter Sunday. So thank you for doing that, and enjoy, everyone. We get a long, like extra time now to get started. And if you're celebrating anything, enjoy that time. And yeah, I will see y'all on Slack.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.